The numbers didn't lie, they just didn't make sense. Max Verstappen's Red Bull RB21 was running cooler, faster, and more efficient than physics allowed. Laurent Mekies opened the telemetry after the race and froze. Verstappen's tire degradation? 0. His hybrid system? Perfectly synchronized. Something inside that car had defied every model. The FIA demanded answers not because of suspicion, but because they couldn't explain how one driver turned chaos into mechanical perfection. And when they looked closer, they realized the truth. It wasn't the car that was different. It was Verstappen. All weekend long, Red Bull looked fragile. The data from practice was grim. The car was unpredictable in the middle sector, sliding in slow corners, overheating on the straights. Verstappen didn't complain, he just listened. His brief comments over the radio were clinical, measured, precise. Front rotations inconsistent. Brake feel changing with temperature. That's all he said. While others panicked, Verstappen was cataloging sensations like a scientist taking notes in a storm. The RB21 wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. He just needed to understand it. When Sunday arrived, the air above the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez shimmered with heat and noise. The stands pulsed red and blue, the crowd of 100,000 turning every lap into an eruption. Verstappen's visor stayed still. Behind the glare, his eyes followed the lights. Red. 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 Out. He launched perfectly, threading the needle through chaos. Norris and Leclerc fighting ahead, Hamilton to his right, dust everywhere. Into turn 1, contact, smoke, and madness. Verstappen cut across the curb, full throttle, the car bouncing over the grass, yet somehow never losing composure. Most would have backed off. He didn't. In his world, balance comes from movement, not hesitation. By lap 2, he was already fourth, and then the rhythm began. Not the rhythm of aggression, but the rhythm of control. Every lap, every gear change, every throttle input flowed with impossible precision. His hands barely moved. The onboard camera made it look effortless, but inside the cockpit, the air was electric thin, hot, suffocating. "He's managing everything," said Gianpiero Lambiase over the radio. "Temperatures perfect. Tires good." Verstappen's reply was short, almost detached, "Copy. Let's go long." No emotion, no doubt. Just intent. As the laps went by, Red Bull's engineers began to notice something that didn't make sense. The RB21 wasn't losing pace. The tires, which should have been degrading rapidly in the thin air, were stabilizing. The core temperatures were perfect. The brake balance, steady. It was as if the car had entered a state of equilibrium. Laurent Mekies, watching from the pit wall, leaned forward and whispered, "This is not normal." Verstappen wasn't just managing the car, he was communicating with it, making it obey in an environment designed to break machines. It began, as these things often do, with confusion. The opening laps of the Mexican Grand Prix had gone exactly as Red Bull expected: chaotic, demanding, full of risk. Verstappen's strategy was unconventional, starting on medium tires while most of the grid had chosen the softer, grippier compound. The team had debated the decision all morning. The models said it would fail. The air was too thin for consistent cooling, the mediums would overheat before lap 25, and the car's balance would collapse. But Verstappen had insisted. "The mediums will come to me," he told Gianpiero Lambiase. "Trust the rhythm." For 20 laps, Red Bull's engineers waited for the degradation to appear. It never came. As Verstappen circled the track, the numbers on the screen told a story that didn't belong in reality. The tire wear curve, instead of falling steadily, had flattened. The core temperatures were stable, despite the 25 degrees Celsius track surface. And the rear brake system, the team's biggest concern since practice, was running cooler than it had all weekend. Laurent Mekies leaned over the data console, staring at the graphs. "This can't be right," he said softly. "Check the sensors." They checked. 3 times. The sensors were fine. The car, somehow, was fine. What wasn't fine was the logic. At 2,200 meters above sea level, no one keeps medium tires alive that long, not in a car generating as much downforce and brake energy as the RB21. It's not the setup, said one of the engineers. He's driving the balance into the car. That was when Mekies noticed something strange in the telemetry. Verstappen's brake pressure traces weren't uniform, they fluctuated subtly, pulsing in rhythm with tire temperature changes. He was modulating his braking input to cool the rears while maintaining energy recovery efficiency. No one had told him to do it. He'd simply felt it. By lap 25, the disbelief had turned to silence. Verstappen's pace wasn't dropping, it was improving. Each lap was smoother than the last. The car's hybrid battery temperature, normally unstable in Mexico's thin air, was now perfectly steady. Mekies looked at the hybrid system's readout and realized what was happening. Verstappen was syncing his throttle and braking inputs to regulate energy flow through the MGUK, the electric motor that harvests and deploys power. Every other driver was fighting the system, Verstappen was harmonizing with it. He's playing the car like an instrument, Mekies said. At Red Bull's pit wall, the debate began to grow. Should they pit him early, follow the plan, reset the numbers? Or should they let him continue rewriting the race? Christian Horner asked a single question: how's the data? Mekies replied, perfect to perfect. That was enough. Then don't touch him. Verstappen stayed out. The longer he drove, the more the RB21 began to look like a different car entirely. The twitchiness that had plagued practice was gone. The understeer that had frustrated him in qualifying had vanished. In its place was balance, total, absolute balance. The telemetry showed zero differential slip through turns 3 to 7. That means no wasted grip, no over-rotation, no fighting the wheel. Verstappen wasn't managing degradation, he was preventing it. It's not management, said one engineer. It's preemptive driving. By lap 35, Red Bull's own simulation models broke down. The predicted degradation was off by more than 40%. The car was too stable, the wear too low. He's rewriting the model, Mekies murmured. The driver's making the data obsolete. For a team obsessed with precision and numbers, it was both thrilling and unsettling. In the Ferrari and McLaren garages, strategists started to panic. How is he still on mediums? One of them asked over the intercom. The answer, though simple, was terrifying, because Max Verstappen was driving like no one else could. He wasn't forcing the car to behave, he was persuading it. Each lap, each corner, each micro-adjustment was bringing the RB21 closer to equilibrium. When he finally came into the pits on lap 41, the tires looked almost new. The compound had worn evenly across the surface, no graining, no blistering, no fading. It wasn't just extraordinary, it was impossible. Mekies leaned forward, watching the slow-motion replay of the stop. We just witnessed a 40-lap miracle, he said. When the engine shut down and the dust settled, the real race began inside Red Bull's garage, in front of rows of glowing monitors. Laurent Mekies and the data team began their standard post-race analysis, cross-checking tire wear, brake balance, and hybrid efficiency. But within minutes, the numbers began to look wrong. Not wrong because of error, wrong because of perfection. The telemetry from Verstappen's RB21 was too clean. No spikes in brake temperature. No drop in rear axle torque. Every metric flat, steady, serene. It's like the car never aged, said one engineer quietly. They pulled up the tire data first. Each compound tells its own story: surface wear, core heat, chemical fatigue. Verstappen's tires told none. The temperature variation between the inner and outer edges was less than 2 degrees, something Red Bull's models said was impossible at altitude. In Mexico, air pressure fluctuations usually tear that balance apart. He's equalizing load through throttle, Mekies muttered. He's using power to control geometry. That single sentence changed everything they thought they knew about how the RB21 behaved under stress. Next came the energy systems. The hybrid recovery data is like a heartbeat, constant micropeaks as the driver brakes, turns, and re-accelerates. Verstappen's looked like a steady pulse. His braking traces weren't abrupt, they were musical. He was regenerating just enough energy to keep the battery within its optimal temperature band without overharvesting. In other words, he wasn't reacting to the car's electronics. He was orchestrating them. It's not human reaction speed, said a systems analyst. It's prediction. He's anticipating every shift in current. The deeper Mekies dug, the stranger it became. Red Bull's driver-in-loop simulator uses an artificial intelligence overlay to map the theoretical perfect lap, a predictive model trained on years of Verstappen's own data. It plots when to brake, how much to turn, when to accelerate, down to the millisecond. When they overlaid Max's actual telemetry from Mexico on top of the AI's predicted trace, the lines matched almost perfectly. Not close identical. Frame by frame, input by input, the live Verstappen had driven as precisely as his digital ghost. He's driving like the machine we built to imitate him, Mekies whispered. The engineers double-checked for software anomalies. None. The synchronization was real. In 71 laps, Verstappen's throttle modulation had never deviated more than 0.5% from ideal. His steering input variance was smaller than the simulator's error margin. It wasn't that the AI had learned from him, it was that he had evolved to drive at the AI's level. He's reached the algorithm, Mekies said, half in awe, half in disbelief. The FIA requested the telemetry the next day. Not because they suspected anything illegal, but because they wanted to understand how one human being could produce mechanical data cleaner than automation. Their technical delegates studied the braking charts, the ERS cycles, the tire deltas. Everything was within regulation. Everything was normal. And yet, none of it was ordinary. We've never seen thermal consistency like this, one official admitted. It's precision beyond digital tolerance. For Red Bull, the discovery was unsettling and magnificent at once. The RB21 wasn't supposed to behave like this. The car had known weaknesses: airflow turbulence behind traffic, sensitivity to crosswinds, fragile thermal balance. Verstappen had erased them all. His inputs compensated in real time, smoothing every vibration, neutralizing instability before it began. It was as if the car's imperfections had been absorbed into his driving style and converted into strength. He's not fixing the problems, said Mekies. He's adapting to them faster than we can measure. That adaptation created a ripple effect across the garage. The data engineers started jokingly calling Verstappen's driving version 2.0. But the truth wasn't funny. He had crossed a threshold where instinct and computation met. The RB21 systems weren't leading him anymore, they were following him. The telemetry proved that micro delays in energy deployment were shortening each stint, but only when someone else drove. Under Verstappen, those same systems stayed in perfect sync.